Hey everyone, Gil here, one of the front-end teachers here at Treehouse. Did you know that you can do simple math operations with CSS? In this workshop series, I'm going to teach you how to use the CSS calc function to add a little logic to your CSS. First, you'll learn the basics of calc. Then I'm going to cover 3 useful ways you can use calc in your web projects, like setting background position offsets, displaying full width elements inside padded containers, and creating fluid grid columns. Calc is a CSS function that performs a calculation and returns a result. With calc, you use operators like the plus sign, minus sign, asterisk, and forward slash to write mathematical expressions that add, subtract, multiply, and divide values. You use the calc function in property values wherever CSS length and number values are accepted. There are many ways you can use calc in your projects. So let's start with something really simple to demonstrate how the calc function works. And later on in the workshop, I'll show you a few handy use cases for calc. To follow along in Workspaces, click the Launch Workspace button on this page. In the workspace, there's a simple web page linked to a style sheet. This index.html file contains a div element with the class column. And when I preview this page in the browser, we can see that the column element takes up the full width and height of the page. So first, I'll show you how to define width and height values using calc. Back in my workspace, I'm going to open up the style.css file and scroll down to the column rule. In the column rule, I'm going to replace the width value of 100% with the value calc. So I'm going to type calc followed by a set of parentheses. Inside the parentheses is where we write mathematical expressions that add, subtract, multiply, and divide values. And the result of the expression is used as the property's value. So I'll start with a simple expression to demonstrate how they work. So inside the parentheses, using a subtraction operator, I'm going to write the expression 150 pixels minus 50 pixels. An expression is evaluated from the left to the right. So when the browser calculates 150 pixels minus 50 pixels, the result is a 100 pixel wide column element. Now, if I go back and use the addition operator to change the expression to 150 pixels plus 50 pixels, the result is now a 200 pixel wide column. Knowing that CSS can do math is pretty exciting and impressive. But in these examples, you're better off using 100 pixels or 200 pixels as the width value. There's no added benefit in using calc for simple pixel-based expressions like this. What's most useful about using calc is how you're able to mix units like percentages and pixels or ems and rems in your expressions. This gives you greater control over your layouts. For instance, say I'm working with a fluid layout where I don't know the exact width of the parent container. And in the container, I want to define a column width that's exactly 50 pixels less than half of the parent container's width. Well, I can calculate the width within the CSS using the expression 50% minus 50 pixels. In the expression, I'm defining the value 50% for half the parent container's width, then subtracting 50 pixels. So when we take a look at it in the browser, we can see how the column will always be 50 pixels narrower than half the viewport width. Even though I used a fixed pixel value in the expression, I'm still able to define a fluid width in my layout. This is what I meant earlier when I said being able to mix units gives you greater control over a layout. Now, if I want a column that's slightly wider than 50%, I can use an addition operator. So I'm going to change the expression to 50% plus 2m. So here, 1m is equal to 16 pixels. So now the column container is 32 pixels wider than half the viewport size. I can also use the calc expression to define the height. So I'll go back to my column rule and change the height value to calc. And then inside the parentheses, I'm going to write the expression 100% minus 3m. So when I save my file and refresh the browser, we can see how the column's height will always be 3m or 48 pixels shorter than the full height of its container. In this case, it's the viewport. When using addition and subtraction operators in expressions, there needs to be a space on both sides of the operators. Otherwise, the browser cannot calculate them. For example, if I remove the space between the minus operator and the value 3m, the expression 100% negative 3m is now considered invalid because the browser interprets this as a percentage value followed by a negative n value. So it cannot calculate this. So be sure to use white space around the minus and plus operators so that they're not interpreted as positive or negative values. So now that you've learned the basics of calc, in the lessons that follow this video, you're going to learn 3 useful ways you can use calc in your projects.